but also humor, like when you are with your friends or, people through social media or whatever, and you're sharing stuff that's funny, like that's something that's communal. There's a relational piece to that. And I think that that's also a part of like an underrated piece to this whole weird puzzle. It's that like humor is this thing that is actually can be like really joining.
Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Podcast, where soulful entrepreneurship and holistic mind-body wellness meet to help you heal, discover your soul's purpose, and change the world. I'm your host, Gabby Ortega, entrepreneur, psychology expert, social media maven, and soulful leadership coach. And it's my mission to empower you into becoming the light leader you're meant to be. Each episode will be diving deep into topics that will help you gain personal mastery over your healing and mind-body wellness, while also giving you practical tips and tools to help you create, market, and scale a heart-centered business around your soul's purpose and life mission. Whether you're in the beginning of your self-awakening journey or a seasoned inner work god or goddess who's ready to step into their leadership as a soulpreneur, this is going to be your new favorite place to be. We know that you don't just want to feel happier and more fulfilled, but you want to deeply know yourself and powerfully step into your life's purpose while creating massive abundance around your mission. That's why I've created this podcast for you, the light leader of the next generation. Welcome home. I'm so glad you're here. Hey guys, welcome back to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. Today, my guest is Alex Pack. We have an interesting story here. This is like super crazy. So Alex is a psychotherapist. He also is the founder and creator of Future Mind Reader, which is on Instagram. It's a mental health meme account. You've definitely seen me post his stuff because it is like roll on the floor funny. And he talks a lot about some really heavy, triggering topics, but brings a lot of humor to it in a way that doesn't feel dismissive, doesn't feel like we're making fun of it in a bad way. It just actually brings so much levity, which is something that I can really relate to because I love using humor like as a part of my work. So I'm so excited to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here. I haven't done one of these in a long time. This is my first time ever like putting myself out there too. Now I'm really thinking about that, because with Future Mind Reader, it's like this meme account, and I just have like, I think my logo is just like an F, and I don't put my face really on anything. So it feels a little new to like talk about myself as being the future mind reader, like, or whatever. But
meme king.
Meme king. Yeah. Meme lord. Right. Which is like, so, I mean, it's just not to derail us, but it's like the fact that memes are even like a part of my identity, or like how I'm sort of talked about. It's like, if you had told me this like 2 years ago, I would have been like, you don't know who I am. But
yeah.
Here we are.
It's so funny. So Alex and I actually crossed paths a while ago when we were both at the same mental health clinic interning. So it was so funny because I did not put two and two together. So I actually came across your memes on Instagram randomly. And I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. And I started following you. And then I clicked on, I think at one point you kind of linked to your professional page. And I was like, holy shit, hold on one second. I know this guy.
Yeah, I know. I remember that.
Yeah. So I would love to know, like, from the time that you and I like ran into each other in the clinic, obviously I jumped into Om therapy coaching and now I'm doing that. And now you have like this meme account and you're doing therapy at the same time. I would love to hear like what that journey was like and how you even got into the meme game. And by the way, they're so good. You guys go follow him at Future Mind Reader. But yeah, tell me about it.
So it's interesting because for me, I was always interested in like creating stuff, but I never once put that much, like I didn't really build myself up in terms of giving it sort of any real credit to like, oh, this is something that I could do professionally or seriously. Like it was always, I was always creative and I always thought creatively, but I have my own like set of like self-doubts and self-criticisms around, putting my own like original content out there. Like it was always something that felt really scary to me. But then when I became an associate, and it's like that's basically like one step before licensure, that I'm going to have to be a professional who markets himself and finds a newer creative way to separate myself from the next good great therapist or whatever. So when I was exploring like the social media path, I was like, okay, I could be like one of the many like really great informed therapists on social media who can like put together quotes or little like prompts and that kind of stuff as like the main part of the content. But for me, I noticed that around the time, so this was like back in I think 2018, and I remember that I felt this sort of like there was something that wasn't being met for me, and it was really easy for me to identify that what it was is that like I wasn't putting that much energy into like creating. And I love memes. I like have just, I mean, most people
I
think
love
of like
memes so much. I like
they're just like a love language.
They are.
They really
It's like
are.
quick to the point, makes me laugh, then I can move on. Like I don't have to think about it. It just is like you know what it is? It's a quick hit of dopamine.
It is a quick hit of dopamine. And this is the thing how I also explain memes. It's so weird to say this, but like, and I know this, and I say this with like, I say this not in like a self-deprecating way at all, is that I am fully aware that by creating a meme, what I'm doing is I'm essentially serving up fast food, like on social media. Like I'm totally aware of this. I know, but like think about it. Like sometimes you just need to go to In-N-Out. Sometimes you just need to go to McDonald's. Sometimes you just need to go, and you just like you take it in.
Sometimes you just need that double in animal fries, and you just don't need to feel guilty about it. No.
Like just enjoy it.
I love that. And it's so cool because I think one of the things I really love about everyone who listens to this podcast is that everybody who listens knows that they have their own unique gifts, their own perspective, their own spin on things.
Yeah, right.
And that is really what separates you from the crowd. Like, I love the traditional therapist stuff that's going on in the Instagram space, but I literally look forward to your posts every single day because like they are so funny and they're so different, and they're so you. And that speaks to me, and I look forward to that all the time. So thank you for creating.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I mean this seriously, is that like hearing you say that, it's a lot of validation for me because because I mean, we know each other a little bit, but even people who I've never met in my entire life, when somebody says that they thought something was really funny, or my favorite ones, to be honest, is like when somebody messages me and they're like, that I died at the meme, but I love the caption. And those are the moments where it's like, yes, like that is like the essence of what I've been trying to do. Because I mean, I do spend like, the caption is where the clinical part of me like really does come out, right? It's like where I'll, just dump, basically, I'm like essentially free associating like into the caption of the meme, which is like very different than the meme itself, because the meme is like humor, a joke, or like a funny situation or whatever it might be. And then the caption, to me, at least, that there should be at the very least like somewhat of a bridge in the content, right? Where it's not like totally random.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, like it's great for somebody like you who is like very informed, is a mental health professional, like this stuff. So to get your validation, or for when you like something like that makes me feel great. It really does. Like it's very, very reinforcing. But when somebody who like might not have ever been to therapy before, also, if they also like send some sort of nice message to me, like that's where, if I get both of those like sides of the spectrum going, then like something something good is going on. Like
Yeah, you're like hitting that middle, perfectly balancing the
yeah.
line between like, bringing humor into it and like giving, I like it almost like it's like you're giving people what they want to get started
Mm-hmm.
and then like walking them right into what they need or what they don't know that they
100%.
need. And it's like a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down kind of a
Right.
situation. That's how I think about it, and
That's
I,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, like it's like here, like let me like kind of ease you into this and then let me also tell you about this like other stuff that like really,
Right.
you need to know. I love
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
Like you need to know this
Right.
stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like, I think in some ways, um, what to go back to like why the memes too is that there's definitely the part of me that's more just like the creative, humorous side of me that just is organic with memes, right? Because it's like sort of what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be light and funny. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that why the memes also for me is that they're kind of like a Trojan horse, like where right on the outside it
Yeah,
looks like this
yeah.
fun, like it's like this thing, it's like this gift, this fun thing or whatever, and then inside there's like, hey, let's advocate for mental health, let's advocate for something that is serious, like no, like negative core beliefs or trauma or just like how about feeling your emotions, like these things that are not funny in nature, but it is kind of like this indirect way of, it's disarming, right? Because it's like if you, sometimes for people they're going to be so resistant and defensive to hearing information that's intense, like that's rich in mental health or therapeutic stuff, right? But if it's like how you said, right, the sugar, right, the sugar's like the meme, like guess what, might be a little bit more accepting to like, oh, that like doesn't feel that great, but the sugar helps, right?
Yeah, there's a difference between like a quote or like a piece of text on a post that says like, yeah, I feel like the way you feel, which is that everything is burning down and there's a lot of hopelessness and I'm really just feels like everything's on fire. And
Mm-hmm.
that could, yeah, like, right, like think about how intense that is to read. And then you think
Yeah.
of like that meme with like the dog sitting in the room full of fire and it's like everything is fine. And it means essentially
Mm-hmm.
you're saying the same thing, but you're using humor as kind of a way to soften it. And
Yeah.
it's all about softening, because like that's how we make things approachable and that's how we make things feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
If we can poke fun, if we can have a little laugh, if we can, have that, because the laughter and the humor comes from a collective recognition of an experience. That's what's funny.
For sure.
It's like you and I laugh because we both know what it's like to feel like sitting in a room that's on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, wasn't funny then,
Nope, but
but
we
it
can
can be funny now.
it can be funny now. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So yeah, how is this experience like been for you? Because you're still, I actually assumed that you were like just running this account and like that was what you did full time. You stepped away from the clinical space, but
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me like no, you're like still seeing clients, you're still doing the clinical work. Like how do
Oh
you
yeah.
balance the two as both kind of this creative entrepreneur creator and as like a clinical therapist?
It's a great question. I think that the good thing is that when I'm creating for Future Mind Reader, I mean I can do that. I don't have to schedule anyone's time, like anyone else's time in to make it happen, right? It's just something that I do with myself. So I mean, if you saw me like go throughout the day, it's like wake up, look at my phone, have some sort of like random thought to just, I mean, it's like bizarre what happens to my brain. It's just like something comes to me, like I'll look at an image or like I'll think about something or like, so, I don't know, it's just like some sort of intrusive thought just like shoots in. And then like what I'll do is like, even when I'm really tired, I'll just like create a note and just be like, blah, 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 like free associate pretty much like into the note. And then I'll have a cup of coffee. I'll have like a client maybe like in an hour or so. And then I'll now it's a little bit more regimented where it's like I'm now like I sort of have like a routine where I want to post something in the morning ish time and then something maybe more in like the late afternoon, early evening. So now it's like this very like loose schedule where it's like if I know I have a client at 9 or 10, then better make a meme before that. But I don't put a lot of pressure on myself, because for me, the creative side of this process, like the thing for me that like kills the creativity is putting pressure, putting expectations on that process.
Yeah,
like I need
same.
it to be right. Like it's nobody has, I mean, I don't remember anyone ever saying, hey, you know what, you want to do a better job of creating something that's creative, put more pressure on yourself. Like,
I've never
awful
heard
advice.
that. And actually, it's interesting because, like, a little fun brain fact for you, which I'm like, I'm such a nerd with neuroscience.
Yeah.
When you go into fight or flight because you're stressed, because you're putting pressure on yourself, the brain redirects blood flow away from your creative centers and your imagination centers, and just redirects it to muscles, redirects it to your heart, redirects it to the places like so that you can breathe and run and fight and do whatever you need to do, because you're in fight or flight to like defend yourself or run. It deems like the creative part of your brain as unnecessary for survival. So literally, like, like the minute that I was like, I stopped putting pressure on myself, because I had at one point created such a social calendar, and like I was like creating things a month in advance and like really stressing out about like getting all this stuff right, which was never how I started. And now I'm back to doing it the way I always have, which is like the way you do it, which is like you kind of know what you're going to talk about, and then you kind of let your imagination in those moments of kind of inspiration hit you, and like you go with it, but when I tried to be more regimented, when I tried to be like, today I'm going to create like nothing else and blah, 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 nothing got done. Nothing got done, and then I beat myself up about it, and then it's a cycle. And I don't know if you can relate. I probably, you guys, if you're listening, get on this toxic cycle where you're like, I'm going to create this stuff today, oh my god, I didn't create it, oh my god, I have to do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes around and you're like, the pressure's times 2, and you're like, and then you just can't, and then you just never do it again.
Right. You're basically in a straitjacket.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because what you just said, what it made me think about was this is like another layer sometimes I think that has been added into that sort of like spiral that you're talking about, like that sort of very like critical, pressured, anxious, stressful sort of like straitjacket that's just like getting wrapped around me. That sometimes what I've noticed is that, and this is what it brings back to like, why the memes, like the social media stuff paired with being a psychotherapist. So when about like, I would even say probably like 6 months to a year ago, I remember thinking like, okay, so the memes that I was making, which is like still so weird for me to say out loud. The memes that I was making were like getting
I feel like, by the way, this podcast is like your grand coming out as like, I am the man behind Future Mind Reader.
This like closeted meme lord. It's like just so bizarre.
You're so powerful, Alex. Let us enjoy your, magnanimousness.
Okay, I will try my best. So, but this is the thing that I think that, and maybe people will resonate with this, is that something that I sort of found in my process was like in terms of the inner critic, which, by the way, in my own therapy, I have labeled recently as like the squatter, which like for me just like resonates. It's just like the squatter.
I love
like just
it.
You can't move him. He's just there. So it's like got to figure out a way to like just be with him. So for the squatter, like one of the things that he'll just like shout is that like what I'm doing, what I'm creating, like a meme or whatever, even if there's a caption with it, like it's not that legitimate, right? That again, this is like what the squatter's saying, that like it's a meme, like you're a psychotherapist, like what you're creating, like you should be doing something that's like more informed and more serious. And like, what if people like misunderstand you and they don't know you, so they don't know that like the meme itself is just like a part of what the content is, right? Because the caption is for me, in terms of how I think about it, like the caption is just as much a part of that post as like the meme is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, right. But for me, like sometimes, because like my reach is like, because they're memes, right? They reach like really like a ton of accounts on Instagram, that a lot of times people will just see it and they won't go to my profile. They won't click on the caption. They'll just see the meme and then they'll like it. So they don't see that there's like this whole other part to it. And that's where like criticism will come in. Yeah. Like when people are like, oh, you're minimizing something. You're not like your therapist should never say this. It's like, well, you should look at the caption that
Isn't
sort of
that
explains
great when
something.
people just like jump on your stuff and you're like, whoa, like, hold on one second, just read the actual caption. It is interesting. I've had that response with a couple of different posts where I brought in some elements of like, I guess more black and white wording or things that weren't
Mm,
like as nuanced. And it was around trauma, and it just like all of the activation was really interesting to watch. But that's so interesting. Do you find
yeah.
like that you get a lot of pushback like that on your posts?
I mean, I think going off of what you're saying, it really does probably depend on what the content is. But I mean, mental health or therapy, I should say, is just like people like to talk about the stigma, right? Like stigma of mental health, stigma of therapy. But there really actually is a stigma there, because if you think about it too, and I know that you know this, I mean, as well as anyone, is that Instagram is not like, you're not confined in, or you're not sort of like restricted in like one geographical area. Like Instagram is international. So all these people who follow you, follow me, who follow whatever, they can be from all these different types of communities and different cultures. And so their takes on things are going to be very different. And so, that's just, you're right. Because like when you make something that's more rigid or more black and white, even if like, who you are, and that like you're not thinking black and white, just like, sorry, I chose one of the sentences that I put down was just like a little bit rigid.
Yeah.
Like, right, God forbid. And then that will be the thing that somebody will get triggered by, because there really is that historical, I mean, that's what it feels like to me, right? Is that there's something that gets stirred up in them to lash out at somebody who you don't know. Like, I don't even have my face. I'm an F with a brain on it. Like, it's not even me, right? You're basically yelling at a logo.
It is interesting, and I think we forget, like, I know when I was a consumer of social media before I was a creator,
Right.
I know that I didn't really think of the people behind these accounts as people. I was like, oh, they have a
Right.
team. Oh, they have like barriers basically protecting them emotionally, which I don't know like why I thought that, now that I do that, I'm like, I'm the one that reads all the comments, I'm the one that posts, I'm the one that does everything, for the most part. And it does affect, definitely how you feel about things. And I really appreciate that you still show up. I think a lot of people who are listening are, in the midst of, or in the beginning of starting to show up on social media, starting
Right.
to post. I know for me, even still, I get very, very triggered in my trauma when someone disagrees or doesn't like what I said, and it's in the idea of like, I don't want to be perceived ever as
Right.
being mindless and not like approaching things from like a really grounded lens and with
Sure.
considering all aspects. Like, I take a lot of time when I write my things, like, I don't just throw stuff out there. And I would hate for people to feel like I'm not like leading with my heart and I'm not considering their feelings, and that
Right.
really sucks. So it's funny, even like at this stage, receiving comments like that, I think people just forget that they're like, we're just humans. We're doing our best. We're trying, we're
Right.
trying to share what we can with you guys.
Right. It's true. No, but I think that, like, I mean, I really do resonate with basically everything you said. And I think that just to bring it back to like the one of the things that my squatter is like just shouting, right, is that there's like this total minimization that happens sometimes for me. And I mean, maybe you can relate to this, and maybe other people can too, where it's like that what I'm creating is not like, we're talking about mental health, we're talking about therapy, which is, for the most part, more on the serious side, right? And like memes are not serious. So there's a part of me that fears that like I'm missing the mark, or I'm like, how you said it, not leading with my heart, that I'm like somehow going to be misinterpreted or misunderstood as somebody who I don't think I am. And so the thing that I've like really had to do a lot of just sort of like just attuning to myself and listening to myself and trying to like reframe the way that I understand myself and this process that I've kind of committed myself to, is that no, like basically what I'm doing is I'm just advocating for mental health in a different way. And I think I posted something on my story or something like a couple of weeks ago, and I basically said that, you know, for those people who wish that my account is like more serious, like I hear you, but like I think that how like the process that I've created is just a different way of advocating for mental health. And so like but putting that out there and being kind of explicit about it, for me what it did was it just sort of, I don't know, not like I didn't armor up, because that's not what it is. Like I think I was actually
It's like
kind of being more
almost
vulnerable.
freeing. Yeah, like in the
Yeah,
vulnerability, in saying, look, guys, this is who I am. This is how I express my views and my like perspectives on mental health. And this is my way of serving with humor and then with
right,
education.
right.
Like that's who I am. And it's like, take it or leave it. I think I also kind of like in the beginning, especially, was posting things that were like other creators, like kind of
Mm,
like, you know, just mimicking, being really safe, not really like having a particular voice or stepping into my uniqueness, and really just and wanting to people please, really. I mean, at the end of the day, that's my people pleaser.
right.
And it is difficult, it's scary to be seen more, you know, to step into that, but at the same time it liberates you of having to show up any other way.
I mean, amen. Like that really is, that's what it is for me too. I mean, I can't say better than that.
Yeah, it's
It's
cool. And then
true.
and then it's like, and then you don't have to worry. That's my whole thing. Like if you know everything about me, then you can't really like shame me about anything. And if you don't like it, you can also leave.
Right. Yeah. But there really is like while doing it too, there's like this sense of like stepping into that sort of like self-confidence too, right? Because like once you commit to being
Yeah.
vulnerable and commit to like, you know, actually, you know what, hold on one second, I'm gonna have a little bit of self-belief here, and I'm going to be explicit about it. Like that's a show of confidence, right? That you're basically hedging on your abilities and hedging on your like your process and your vision. And to me, like it's something that I actually know. There's like an actual visceral shift, which is like so bizarre because it's just a story. Like it's such a little thing, but even just putting that out there, there was something that shifted. And I think that what it's allowed me to do, and what it makes me think about too, and I've talked about this. I did this. I did the guest lecture for this class at Pepperdine, and one of the things that I was talking to with all these younger in the process, I mean, therapists who are, you know, about to graduate, was that, you know, when it comes to marketing yourself, putting yourself out there as a therapist, um, you know, you can advocate for mental health. You can advocate for yourself as a business in whatever way you want. Like if it's through memes, or if it's through videos, or if it's through like doing something like this, where you talk to people like through a podcast. Like it doesn't have to just be, hey, here's my take on anxiety, and like these are the steps you should do. Like you don't have to just do that.
Yeah, and I fucking love that you brought that up, because I think we have what feels like a rebellious young generation of therapists who are
Mm,
also self-healers, who are those of us who have gone through our own really heavy shit, who are approaching this from a much more modern perspective, who are like, okay, let's take the foundations like we would, you know, I played piano a long time ago, and like it's like almost like Freud and all the theories and all the things like that
mm,
are all like the scales. And now we're like, okay,
right.
let's not play classical music, let's make rock. And
Hmm.
it kind of feels like that. It's like, let's modernize this whole way of approaching mental wellness, which everyone has mental health, guys. Like we all have mental health.
Hmm.
Let's approach mental health from a different way that's accessible emotionally as it is, you know, financially. And, you know, I mean, even
Sure.
just from what you provide on social media for free is so wonderful, through your humor,
Right.
through the captions, through your teaching. I really love that we have this new generation of young therapists who are rebellious, who are looking for ways to change the way we kind of approach mental health and mental wellness. And I love that you bring up this idea of using social media as a therapist, as a psychologist, as a licensed mental health professional, to make yourself stand out, and that we don't have to be afraid to violate ethical boundaries, because like you can put yourself out there, be seen, step outside of your office door and like into the sunlight without hawking for business on the side of the road and being like, hey, come over here. You know, you don't have like, I don't think I've ever once seen you like jump on there and like sell or like do anything that would violate any ethical boundaries, like confidentiality or anything like that. And yet you're able to really, what feels like fully express who you are through your social media platforms, which that's how I teach people to attract clients, because that's essentially how you find the perfect therapy clients, right? I mean, it's like a match energetically.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean, how could you find somebody? I mean, I guess you can get lucky, but if you are showing up in an authentic way, then it just allows there to be a real connection. It's like, right? Because if I am who I am, if I'm like the closest I can be to my authentic self, which is scary sometimes, but if I can be that and show people that, then if people choose to like resonate or connect or like or whatever, then those are the people who are probably going to continue to resonate and connect and like the stuff that I create, right? Because if I start to create stuff that like is not me, which I have 100%, I have done before. Yeah. And it feels like shit.
It feels horrible. And you call in the wrong clients and you realize that and you're like, oh my God, I did not do this correctly.
I mean, even like, oh God, yeah. I mean, this is like, I could go on and on about this, but like, yeah, it really is. I mean, I think that something that I'm building, and I think this relates to what we're talking about, is that something that I am proud of, which is like a hard thing for me to say, but like something I am proud of is that I am trying my best to like especially if I'm in this like creative part of my life right now, which is like this account, that if I'm creating something, that I really want it to be where it's like, okay, is this something that I'm interested in? Is this something that I think is funny? Instead of what do I think other people will think is funny? What do I think other people will want? Because I mean, taking other people into consideration, like, of course that's important, but if that's like the main driving force, like that, this is like maybe going to come off more intense than I mean it, but like, to me, that's kind of like you're selling out and you're also like abandoning your authentic, really great, like you can offer something that nobody else can because it's you.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're selling yourself short, you know, and I think you will notice that you don't get the following that you kind of want. You'll notice that people come and go. You'll notice your numbers don't really change. You'll notice it doesn't get traction because it's not really you. And it's really funny how fucking fast things open up when you get in alignment. You know, when you're like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be seen. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to start doing things that might be a little on the edge, let's say, but they're really me, and watch that shit grow. Like people if you want to be a leader, you have to be someone who allows himself to be seen.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, so what were some like ways, or are some ways that you kind of get over the nerves of showing up, of creating, of getting yourself out there? One of the things I hear the most is kind of a lot of resistance around, especially for my clinicians, stepping out in front of the like kind of professional conditioning we've been kind of trained to have, and like to allow ourselves to be seen, and a lot of resistance because there's the fear, there's kind of this idea that we shouldn't, so it's a little taboo almost. It's like kind of like, don't be seen, don't be heard, don't make a noise. How do you combat that kind of conditioning, and how have you approached really allowing yourself to show up and to be seen?
It's a great question. And I think that I have a little bit of a cop out here because with Future Mind Reader, it's, again, it's not me. I mean, it is me, but it's like an alter ego, essentially.
But that's a method of really being seen too. Like you don't necessarily have to. I didn't name my company Gabby Ortega. That was like too vulnerable for me. I was like, therapy coaching sounds like a step behind, just being fully out there. But I think that's also a very valid way to do it.
Sure, which is definitely true. And I think that to go to your question, though, I think that I haven't really thought about this too intensely, but I think that maybe a part of what helps me is knowing that I have Future Mind Reader, which is like not my professional account, right? It's sort of like this other account that I just created. So it's almost like I've created this safe space that is mental health related, but not my private practice professional account. So it almost like, I think what maybe this happened unconsciously even for me, was that maybe I wanted it to be this way so that I could allow my like authentic self to be the leader of the voice, right, for that account, as versus like when I rarely post on my professional account, but when I do, like there's still me in there. But I mean, I tried to do the quotes thing for a little bit, and I was like, this is just not me. Like I'm not the quote guy. Like that's not who I am.
Well, I mean, honestly, like please do your zone of genius, because it brings so much brightness to my day, and I would be so sad if I started to see just Alex Pack quotes. I mean, I'm sure they'd be great, but like I would miss that zhuzh, little, in the middle of my day, that pick me up from that meme.
This is the weirdest thing about this, is that like I was thinking about this. So I'm almost 30, right? So I'm younger, and I'm thinking like 10 years from now, like am I going to be making memes? Like honestly, there's a chance. There's a chance I could. There's a chance I could be making memes at 40. I don't know. Like who knows? Like, I have no idea, but like, will I hate it if that's the case? Like, hell no. Like, this is for whatever reason, whatever like reasons that led to memes even being a thing that existed in this world. It just like has resonated with my creative process. And if I can use the humor and the jokes, like the fast food of social media, as a way of advocating for something that I believe, that I know that you do too, really matters, right? Which is like taking care of yourself, taking care of your mental health, mental wellness, like giving a shit about the world and other people. Like it, then like, why would I not do that?
Yeah. I think it's knowledge everybody needs to have, tools everybody deserves to have. I was shocked when I went into my master's program, and I was like, how come no one told me this before? How come I'm 27? It's the first time I'm hearing about emotional regulation in this way, or I'm hearing about like trauma, and I'm understanding, I'm connecting all these dots, and I feel like I'm like being shot into another dimension. I'm like, all of this stuff needs to be taught in like grade school.
100%.
You know?
It does. Trigonometry? You think I would care about geometry? Like, why do I need to know shapes and stuff? Like, I'm sorry, like,
not physicists out there, we love you, but not for me, like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I think that if we're going to learn all that, we definitely can make space for like mental health and learning about our feelings and learning about like what it is to be a friggin' human being, because at the end of the day, that is what we are. We're humans. We are full of imperfections. We go through lots of shit. Life is hard. There's not one person on this planet who does not have trauma or pain or suffering. Guaranteed. Even if they have a very privileged life, people still experience trauma. People still experience pain.
For sure.
So, it's a really, humor is to me such a medicine. and it's part of my medicine. And I think like
Sure.
for me, it's brought me so much healing. I think for a lot of people, it's brought a lot of healing. I mean, we look at stand-up comedy and stand-up comics
Right.
who really, I mean, so much mental health struggle there as well. And they use comedy as their outlet.
Right.
And I think that's so beautiful, and it's you, and like what a cool
Right.
thing to bring into this space.
And just to build off of what you're saying, I think that this is the thing that I've like recently thought about too, is that when it comes to humor, like, and let me just be very, very clear here. Like, I am not saying that this is like an equal sign at all. But if you think about this just from like a social, relational lens, if you think about like what humor is, and this is something that you like, I wanted to say something about something you said earlier, that I forgot to, but it really reminds me of something that I've really thought about lately, which is that humor is essentially like kind of like what food is. If you think about like when you go do stuff with your friends, like so much of it is around food. Like, I mean, maybe not as much now because there's a pandemic, but like if you
Everything
go out,
for me is around food, Alex.
right? I know I've seen all the like amazing, like the best looking coffee drinks and smoothies and that kind of stuff in the world. So yeah, you're right. But seriously, right? Because like, think about it. Like when you go out to dinner, you do that with, I mean, you can do that with friends, you can do that with family. You have dinner parties, you have picnics. Like there's food is like this thing that brings people together. And I know that food is also like a necessity. Like you need food to survive, and humor, you don't technically need to survive, but it
it's
really is.
nourishing. Like it's so nourishing in that way. It's like community building and soul nourishing.
For sure. It's so true. Because it is nourishing, and it's something that you can do by yourself. Like you can just like, hey, mindlessly scrolling on your phone and like looking at memes, and if you laugh at something, that brings something to you. But also humor, like when you are with your friends or people through social media or whatever, and you're sharing stuff that's funny, like that's something that's communal. There's a relational piece to that, and I think that that's also a part of like an underrated piece to this whole weird puzzle. It's that like humor is this thing that is actually can be like really joining. So just adds a little bit of legitimacy, I guess, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man,
Right.
this is so cool. Did I ask you yet what makes you feel like your most light leader self? Did we talk about that? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, tell
Nah,
me.
the hard
I
question.
ask everybody and I'm always like so fascinated by people's answers.
So the first thing that comes to mind is, I'm going to bring it back to memes again, is that
Makes me so happy.
I'm telling you, man, like this is just like, I mean, I've just accepted it now. But it really is something that I've just noticed is that if I just, how you said it before, I think it encapsulates it perfectly. Is that like when you have that, you're sort of in your creative mode, right? You have this inspiration that sort of comes to you. And for me, the inspiration creative mode is like usually kind of coming up with like a joke or like a funny thing, a funny situation, and transferring it into a post. And I think that in those moments when I really notice that it's just like organic, right? It's like I feel so aligned in those moments. It feels so good because it's like, I mean, sure, like I'm thinking and I'm I'm using like executive functioning and all of that stuff too, but it's so just like intrinsic, right? It's so just natural. And I'm also feeding something that really I know is really important to me, is that like, because if I am not creating, if I'm not being creative, like I know like it's a noticeable difference in my life. So
yeah, it's an outlet.
it is.
Yeah.
It's an outlet for sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's one experience, or that's one moment when I really do feel very aligned. It's like when I'm sort of just, I've allowed myself to like accept that I'm a creator, and when I'm in that creative mode, like that's when I feel very aligned. And I also think too that being a therapist is that when I stop, I'll speak for myself, is that when I stop trying to like fix and solve, right? Because there's like that part of me that just like really wants to help. And if I can just allow myself when I'm with a client and remember that it's not my job to fix or solve anyone. It's my job to maybe just be there and like listen and understand and have empathy and just like almost float, right? Like you're sort of like floating with them. That those are the moments when it's just like, it's the same sort of thing, right? It's just so like, it's, I
Yeah.
don't even know how to, it's hard to put words to it. It's just
I
very
know,
like,
I know the feeling. It's really, but I think like you're saying, like you're floating with the person feels
yeah,
like, and then also like there's almost this like you're creating this like sacred space. You're holding this sacred space as you
right.
kind of, you're holding that for them, to
So
give
true.
them that room to express what they need to express. And then,
Right.
you're in this journey together, and energetically, it's this really magical kind of alchemical flow that happens like underneath the levels, almost both on the conscious level and on the unconscious
For
level.
sure.
And that is just a beautiful, beautiful process. It's super
Yeah.
fun.
It's amazing. I mean, so I think that, and the best thing about it too is that because like this is just my life, right? It's like memes and therapy is like essentially who I am right now. So like there are times when I will get to have multiple moments of that in a day, right? Where it's like either through memes, future mind reader, or through being a therapist. And like it's a noticeable difference at the end of the day when I'm able to reflect back and be like proud and and just feel like I'm adding goodness, right, to this world. And that's when like I think this is like where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing this type of stuff. So that to me is like very
Yeah.
aligned.
I love that. And that's so, again, uniquely you. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
guys, like, look at your own life. Look at what you love to do. Look at the things that make you come alive. Follow these little moments of like these sparks of joy, as Marie Kondo says, the
Mm-hmm.
sparks of joy within your heart, like where you're like, I love this,
Right.
Follow those breadcrumbs, because when you collect all of those breadcrumbs, that's exactly who you are, and where your zone of genius lives, where your joy lives, where your play and your happiness and your healing lives. That's where it's at. So, like, that sounds like it's therapy and creation and channeling humor and like just genius in a genius way, I would say. Like, it's not easy to make memes, it's like visual and words, and like it
Mm-hmm.
has to all really make sense.
Sure.
So, you guys, thank you for tuning in today. Alex is, I think, one of the most amazing examples of how you can really beautifully balance this public kind of persona and being an influencer of some kind. I would say you would definitely like a mental health influencer,
Mm-hmm.
in the deepest way possible,
Sure.
while also kind of navigating the clinical world and allowing yourself to exist as both you, the human being, the creator, the artist, the fun, awesome dude, and then like
Mm-hmm.
you, the also fun, awesome dude therapist who's also very professional and knows his shit and can sit and hold space and float. And that's like so, so cool. And I think
Thank
just
you.
a testament to the kinds of light leaders that are coming up now. So thank you for sharing your story with us, and giving us a little bit of inspiration to help keep us going in our own journey.
Hey, you know what? I mean, honestly, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I love that I can debut Future Mind Reader, I guess, with like my own face. But I think that for anyone who's listening who is just trying to find like their own unique way of being through social media or just like through marketing, their company or whatever, that I really do hope that um, you know that the voice inside of you that is saying, "Hey, like your authentic self is really special." Like, uh, turn the volume up on that because like that's
Crank that
something,
shit up, guys. Crank it
right?
up.
Bump it. Like seriously, let it flat because like
Love
it
it.
needs. No, but seriously, right? I mean, it's like the squatter. The squatter
Yeah.
is going to tell you to be somebody that you're not, and like crank the volume on the great part of you. And also, if you like memes, then you can always go to Future Mind Reader and eat some In and Out.
Yeah.
social media in and out.
Get some in and out and go to his channel. Do both, like metaphorically and literally. Just get a burger,
At the same
go
time.
sit down, like scroll his page, and give yourself some relief from all of the craziness that is the mental health, self-awakening, spiritual awakening journey, and laugh a little bit, because laughter is healing and laughter is medicine too. Oh man, thank you so much,
Sure.
Alex, and
Yeah.
we'll
Thanks for having
see
me.
you guys soon. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast. I am so excited that you're here and that we are growing together. If there was anything that you took away from today's episode, I would love to hear about it. Take a screenshot, tag me with what you took away, and we will repost you. And if you are interested in leaving us a review on iTunes, we are going to give you a free copy of my Subconscious Reprogramming Workbook. It is an incredible workbook that helps you work through all of the deep programming that happened during childhood that might be holding you back in your life today. So super valuable. This is a $75 workbook. I am willing to just send it to you for free because I would love to hear your feedback on iTunes reviews. So shoot us a review, take a screenshot, and DM us with a screenshot of your review, and we will send you a free copy. The Light Leader community calls are also up and running. I'm so excited to be providing a completely free space for all of you guys to come connect, learn, grow, and step into your light leadership. These calls are every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and I will be dropping the Zoom link in my emails for my email list. So if you are not already on the email list, head on over to my page at OM_therapy_coaching on Instagram and click the link in my bio to sign up for the email list. You will be on the list for all of these community calls. You can pop in whenever you'd like, ask us questions, and we'll also be providing trainings to help you do all the deep inner work to step into your leadership, and also the practical stuff to help you set up a business. It's going to be amazing. So come join us for that. The first call is going to be this Thursday, August 20th, and every other Thursday moving forward. And lastly, we have the OLA Ignite program. Yes! This is going to be launching its second round 2.0 coming up September 1st. So September 1st, we're opening the doors for enrollment, and October 1st, we begin the next round. So I'm super excited. All of my light leaders who went through this round just found tremendous success, financial freedom, personal freedom, confidence, and they're just changing the world in such unique ways that are so aligned with who they are as human beings and as soul leaders that it's just amazing to watch it happen. And I'm just so excited to provide this container and support for you. There are going to be guest coaches, OM specific co-coaches, me, a 12-week online course, group calls twice a month, one-to-one call support, and it's just a constant hype up. So come join us. If you are a female light leader, I am calling on you to join our community. So we launch enrollment September 1st. Keep an eye out and we will keep you updated with all the latest. Thank you again for joining me. I am so happy to connect with you, and keep coming back and letting your powerful light leader shine. We love you, we see you, we need you, and we honor you.